Hi and welcome back to my channel. In today's video you have the next episode of Book Buying Bingo. I'm still finessing things, how to restart, working on things. I love buying books and I read a lot of books, so it's really easy to cross off pretty much everything on the bingo board. And I'm thinking about ways to make it more difficult for myself, like getting a bigger board. Didn't come up with that in time for this one. However, so I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it slightly differently. And what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to show you the books that I got last time. The 13 tokens basically that I earned for that. And I had said that I didn't know whether I was going to go right away and get it. I did. I went right over to my computer and got them. And I got all of them from Book Outlet. And the reason that I did that, and because I have wish lists on both Book Outlet and Thrift Books to get books for cheaper, the reason I did Book Outlet is because they can be shipped all as one package to save, save the planet basically. Thrift Books, I think they come from different warehouses, distributors or whatever that they have. And so often when you place a big order on Thrift Books, it comes in multiple small packages. So I probably will do that for some of the stuff that's not on Book Outlet. But anyway, I'm going to show you those books. Then I'm going to show you my bingo board, and I have used painter's tape to put on the different prompts, because what I'm going to do to help myself out is I'm actually going to take the prompts off of the bingo board and put them on the book that I'm using for it, and then just put the prompt back on the board to show which ones that I have earned. Let's get into the books that I have purchased. So I did purchase one book that I already own, and that is This Woven King. I just said I just purchased one book that I already own. I purchased one book that I've already read, and that is This Woven Kingdom by Tahara Mafi. I really enjoyed this book. I cannot wait to get to the sequel, which comes out very soon, I believe. February, early March, something like that. There are special editions available on various book boxes, but I didn't do those because I didn't get the first special edition of the first one. So this is the only one of this haul. Well, no, there's one other, but it's connected with another that I have read before. And that other book that I have read before is Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. This is a permanent sticker. This is just part of the cover, and it's covering up, and it says for a limited time only. How is it limited if it is permanently part of the book? Oh well. I already had book 3, I believe, from a Christmas gift, and so what I have now is book 2, Wondersmith. And yes, this is paperback, this is hardback. You do what you can, and I'm not a stickler for those collections. I like it when it goes together, but be that as it may. So all of the rest of them I have not read before. So first of those, this is actually starting a new series, and because I really enjoyed Foul Lady Fortune, I decided I'm going to give these Violent Delights duology a try. And so I have These Violent Delights. They didn't have, I think it's These Violent Ends, which is the conclusion to the duology. They didn't have that on Book Outlet. Who knows, maybe I'll look again and give that a try. The rest of them are going to hopefully help me in my series completion. They are ongoing series that I have that I've talked about in those previous videos, which I will, if I remember, link up in the cards or down in the description below. The first 2 of these will actually really help with completing series because they're second books in duology, and the first of those is Fire in the Streets by Kekla Magoon. The first book, Between the Rock and the River, I read, I loved, thought it was amazing. And this is a companion novel which stars someone who is mentioned and is a minor secondary character in the first book in the duology. I can't wait to read this. Next, I didn't know that this was going to be a duology. I read the first book because it was on the SCASL list. Speaking of which, there is an in-depth launching of my SCASL project for this year coming, and I have thoughts. But anyway, the first book was Jane Anonymous, and it was a really interesting look at a girl who had been kidnapped and held hostage and had a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, you would say, and it was dual timeline, both after she had been rescued and while she was there. And I don't know if this is the same character or just a companion novel in the world, but this is The Last Secret You'll Ever Keep. I really love Book Outlet because most of their books are in really good conditions when you get them. So the next two sets, no, there are 3 sets of 2 books coming, and I believe I need one more in one of the sets, so I'll talk about that last. But these are, the next one is companion novels, and they're very different lengths. But the first book in the series is Love and Gelato, and it's not a typical book for me. And I don't know which order that they go in, but I need to take off the sticker. But this is Love and Olive, so I believe this will take place in Greece. And this one is Love and Luck, which I believe will take place in Ireland, which I really want to go to Ireland. And then the next one, I don't know which is which. I'll have to look online, but this is, I think, I'm trying to remember. Okay, so the first book in this series is 3 Times Lucky, and it takes place in like a rural Mississippi town. It's sort of like small town mysteries, but for middle grades. And so you have, okay, so the back of this definitely helped me figure this out. So book 2 is The Ghost of Tupelo Landing, and book 3 is The Odds of Getting Even. I believe it's just 3 books in the series, but I will have to look that up. And then the other one that I need one more book to finish off the series. I need book 2 because these are books 3 and 4. And this is the Track series by Jason Reynolds. And oh, I thought they were written in verse, but I guess they're not. He has written stuff in verse before, but I really appreciate his work. And so the first one is Track, which is the first one. I need to get Ghost, and then I have, no, the first one is Ghost, and that was an award winner. So I need to get that one as well if I decide to keep the series, but that's the one that I've read before. And then I have book 3, which is Sunny, and book 4, which is Lou. And these are, they're named after people who are on this track team, which is sort of like not an official track team with a school or whatever, but it is sort of run through a school. It's like a rec league sort of thing, but I'll talk more about it once I reread it and remember some more details. Okay, now those are all of the books that I got last month because of what I earned. And so this month, these are going to be the prompts that I'm working on. Now, when I go through and I'm adding things to it, I'm trying to figure out the best way to add them. Okay, I think what I'll do is I'll do like a dual filming so that I can have an up close picture of this back in the, what's my closet, my new bookshelves, so you can actually see what's on here. But also I'll go through all of the books and I'll hold up the individual book, say which one it is, and then cut to me throwing it up. You know, I'm figuring this out as I go. But here are all of the different prompts. I won't go through them except just to mention that as I started pulling prompts randomly, I started getting a bunch of ones that were on the cover, and I started to put it back, but then I'm like, no, let's just make a whole row of things on the cover. So we've got green, animals, plants, person, and beautiful. Although I did put one back after it was plants on the cover because the next one I pulled was nature on the cover, and I'm like, that's basically the same thing. So I did put that one back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these off, put them on individual books, then go over them. Okay, so I've gone through and I've sorted everything. I'm not sure why, but I apparently have read less books in this segment, this 4-week segment, because I'm filming this at the end of the 3rd week of the month, basically. Would that be it? Or just a little bit before that. Approximately a week and a little bit to go, because that's when I film these. So I've read a little bit less, and spoiler alert, I did not clear the board this time. So I won't be able to get as many books. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Who knows? So what I will do is I will go through and I'll show you each book and talk briefly about the prompt that it fits, and then you will see as I fill up the board, I went ahead and took off the ones that I was not able to fill, the prompts that I wasn't able to fill. And so you'll see on the board little stars that I have marked so I know which went where. And so what we will see at the end is all of the ones that I have filled. So if the prompt's on the board, that means I have met that prompt. And then I will count up how many I have earned at that point, and I'll come back here and tell you what those are. So starting with, I'm gonna go in order, row order. So we're just gonna start with the top row. At least I believe this is the top row. Yes, okay, starting with the top row. The first one we have, this was a little tricky because I stretched the meaning of season. So this is Running While Black by Alison Mariella Desir, and I had fits the current season. And so I didn't have anything that was winter. I didn't have anything that was spring. I don't tend to read seasonally, but this is February. It is Black History Month, and so I'm using this one for this. Next we have audiobook, and for that, and spoiler because I haven't actually, it won't be a spoiler because, well, maybe it will be, because the recent reads for this is going up after this video, but I have finally finished this massive tome. It was a really good idea to read it a little bit as I went, and I started off reading it physically, but the reason that I was able to finish it, I don't think I would have been able to finish it within a month if I'd read it physically, is I read about 65–70% of it as an audiobook. Then we have one that I'm not quite sure fits, but I'm fairly certain I did not get this book through a book box. However, I'm fairly certain that either Illumicrate or Fairy Loot or maybe Owlcrate has done this as either an add-on or as some sort of special edition. So I am counting this as a book box book. And I thought for the next one, I wouldn't necessarily be able to, I'd have to rearrange and use just one book for this, but I had plenty. And that is Fire on the cover, and I'm using Angel of Greenwood for this because all of that stuff back there, that is unfortunately fire. And then finally we have, for the top row finally, based on a true story, and for that I used Run, which is a graphic memoir and is based on the true story of John Lewis's life. On the next row, you will see I do not have a lot for this one because this is one of the rows I was not able to assign a book to. And for this one, the prompt starts with an S, and because one of the words in the title starts with an S, I'm counting it, and that is The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. And this is getting unhauled after this. And then we have the one that I thought I was going to use for fire, but ended up using for this prompt, and that is fantasy, and that is Fire by Kristen Kishore, which is book 2 in the Graceling Realm series. Then we move on down to the third row, which also shares space with the free space. And so for that one, the prompt is outside of North America. And so I chose Someday Maybe because this is set in Great Britain, which is in Europe. And then I had lots to choose from, but I was narrowing it down as I was filling this out. And so for the prompt Orange on the cover, I chose Kiki Kalira Breaks a Kingdom. Now we get to row 4, and rows 4 and 5 I did manage to complete. And so for that one, green on the cover, this was my on the cover row. I chose The Return of the King. I had several that I could use for this, but this is the one that I chose because there's green. And then next we have Animal on the cover. And if you can see in the sword there are horses. Those are definitely animals. And next we had Plants on the cover. And so we have all these fall leaves. I'm not really sure about the design or why they're on there after reading this, but I loved this book. Spoiler alert for the upcoming recent reads. And then we had the next prompt, which is Person on the cover. And for that I chose Far Sector. And lastly we had Beautiful cover. And for that, I'm gonna take this off to show the cover. For that I chose The Door of No Return. I think the simplicity of design, the colors, and then also the simplicity of this right here. I loved it. I thought it was really striking. So for that, I chose Beautiful cover. And now for the last row, BookTube recommendation. I would never have known about Frederick Bachman had it not been for BookTube, specifically starting with Murphy Napier. And so here we go, BookTube recommendation. Then we have lowest rated on Goodreads. And so whenever this prompt comes up, I just look at the books that I have and I go to Goodreads and I see which is the lowest rated, not the lowest rated total on Goodreads. But for this one, I have a Venom, Dark, and Sweet. I can understand this rating. This is a 3.7 rating, which is the lowest rating out of all of the books collectively on Goodreads. And then we have one word title. And for that one, I chose Gleanings. Definitely a one word title. The whole series had one word titles. And two more left there. I have New Kid for school setting. These last four are January reads from the last week of January. So you will have heard me talk about them in my January wrap up. And the last one there I have is series continuation, because the series is not quite done yet, and for that I have Stellar Loon. So I'll be back in just a moment to talk about how many books I'm able to purchase for this round of book buying bingo. Okay, so as you saw, I'm definitely not getting as many books this time around as last time. You saw me count up 4 of them. However, I forgot about the diagonals, and I did get one of those diagonals, so I can get 4 books. 5 books. I can count sometimes. I can get 5 books this month, and every book that I can add to my collection is something really good. And so the fact that I did not complete the board this month means maybe I'll take it easy on myself and I won't make the board any bigger. Although if I make the board bigger, there's more possibilities of earning more books. So we shall see. I will come back to you on the next episode of this to say whether or not I'm going to expand it, because it's also going to make it a little bit more difficult to get all the way across, because I'd have to get like 6 across or 7 across or however big I make the board. I might see if I can design a custom 7x7 board, because then bingo at the top would just be bingo with like 2 spaces on the end. Maybe I could just do like, you know, exclamation marks and with Spanish, because you know they put the upside down exclamation mark at the end. And anyway, I'm rambling. So there you have it. There is Book Buying Bingo episode 6. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.